What is going on, you guys? We actually got some interesting news today, unrelated to Star Wars games, but if you're a geek and you like sci-fi and you like ships flying around in space, you may have heard of a show I like to call Battlestar Galactica. I like to call it that because that's exactly what it's called. Great show. Loved the reboot. Didn't really watch the originals, but awesome show. Regardless of that, have you ever heard of a little game called Wings of Glory? If you've played X-Wing before, you might be familiar with Wings of Glory. It's made by Ares Games, and Ares Games announced today they are making Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles. Not going to follow the exact same mechanic as Wings of Glory, which is very similar to a game you might know called X-Wing. It looks like this new Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles war game is going to have an all-new system here, and they've kind of gave us some teaser pictures of it. Now, this is obviously early prototype stuff. There are no official pictures available for it yet, but it looks like these ships are going to have two dials to indicate ship, relative facing, and as well as inertia. Now, one of the greatest things about the combat in Battlestar Galactica was that inertia was really cool. Like, you could be, I'm going to use this little Hot Wheels car, you may be flying this way. Oh, I need to turn. Oh, I'm still going this way. Oh, no, and I can spin around and come back this way. So, that looks like basically what's going to happen here. You can be flying one way and turn, and do strafing fire while you're, trying to get turned around, or you can do maybe completely, a K-turn, but you're still flying backwards, shooting at those guys who are trying to chase you down. That type of movement in a game like that seems really cool. Also, in this image, you can see that there are missiles, and it looks like the missiles have their own tracking. From some of the information that was put out today, it does talk that missiles are going to basically track enemies down kind of on their own, so you don't have, you can kind of, they'll have like fire and forget capability. Also, this is going to span both the original classic show and the, 2005 remake, 2007 remake, I don't remember what year, but yeah, so basically the old and the new Battlestar Galactica. So they're going to have a moderate variety of ships, and it remains to be seen whether or not they will have license to, put a few special touches of their own on here. So maybe there'll be, some variations. There's some new ships as well, but there's a whole lot of information that still remains to be seen. But it's kind of exciting. Humans versus Cylons, and they're going to have different pilots. They're going to have different pilot abilities. There isn't a whole lot in Battlestar Galactica with regards to, the different pilot abilities for, like, Cylon ships. You had Scar, but that was about it. But they are going to give them unique upgrades and things like that, the same way that they're going to be able to give, the human pilots upgrades. I think they're just going to come in different forms. They may come in different patches or hardware or, upgrades rather than actual pilot names. But very cool. I'm excited about it. So when are we going to get some more information about this game? Well, they have basically said that this will be revealed to the public Gencon 2018. That makes me very happy because I'm going to be at Gencon this year, 2018. So hopefully I will be able to get a look at this game and bring you some information on it. And I'm curious if you guys are interested in, in me covering a game like this. Because of the type of stuff I cover, I really cover primarily Star Wars games. But this is so close to the type of stuff that I cover. It's spaceship combat on a tabletop. And it's, sci-fi themed. Battlestar Galactica is really, honestly, if they did Firefly also, I would probably be interested in that. Or I really want a Star Trek, a good Star Trek game. Not Attack Wing, but like something that actually has the ships in it, at least something resembling a relative scale. And I would love for it to be Armada. And a lot of people speculated, and one of the reasons Battlestar Galactica is an interesting point is because Fantasy Flight, makes the Battlestar Galactica board game, so they at least have some rights for Battlestar Galactica. But this is a little different, and a lot of people thought, well, what if Armada had a Battlestar Galactica variant? And so, being that you're getting the actual fighters here, I don't think we're going to get like the Galactica in a game like this, because these look like they're approximately X-Wing sized. And as a matter of fact, you can see a picture of the prototype dial set that they have here for a Viper. And it basically it's 2 dials in one. So you know your facing is on the bottom part, and then the you know where your ship is actually you know pointed is another one. You know, so your inertia is like looks like it's the outer dial, and your actual ship facing is the inner dial. Pretty cool stuff. I'm pretty excited about this though, because a system like this would be drastically different than anything that I've played before. And I think it would be a lot of fun to play. I think, you know, flying around the board, trying to maintain control, trying not to fly off the board while also trying to line up shots could be an absolute blast. And like, it makes me wish X-Wing had something like that. I think that would be tremendous. I mean, Armada, to an extent, has inertia, right? And that's a cool aspect of Armada. You can't just stop on a dime. Unfortunately, in X-Wing, you kind of can. But you know, no system is perfect. You know, it's still a board game or tabletop game. It's not going to, you know, represent perfect space combat. I mean, for crying out loud, the starships have gravity on every ship basically has gravity on them. So how is any of this stuff perfect? But pretty cool stuff. I'm excited. Let me know if you want me to cover this some more as information becomes available. Is this a game you would be interested in maybe seeing bat reps for, things like that? Let me know what your relative interest in Battlestar Galactica as a whole is, or other franchises that are worthy of tabletop games in your opinion. Because you know, as much as I think my true love is always going to be Star Wars, I would easily cover a quality Star Trek game if one came out in kind of in the style of Armada. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of squadronless builds in Armada, because in Star Trek you kind of didn't have fighters it wasn't a perfect World War II, you know, copy, whereas Battlestar Galactica and you know, Armada and Star Wars basically were meant to represent actual, you know, at least inspired by real, you know, tactics and battles and wars. You know, whereas like, you know, Armada is the naval combat. Same thing with Battlestar Galactica. They represent like the fighters and the fleets that have to launch, you know, the airplanes from World War II in those naval battles. And that's kind of, you know, and that was a huge part. And that's one of those reasons why those are such an important part of the strategy in those games, is just because, you know, it's meant to represent realism. Whereas Star Trek, while the science for a lot of that stuff does represent realism, you see a lot more ship, you know, capital ship versus capital ship combat with virtually no squadrons. And I really like the idea of that. You know, I played a computer game a long time ago called Bridge Commander, and it was very open, very sandboxy in the types of battles that you could set up, and you had a great idea of controlling your ship and controlling your different shields in 3D space. And that's another thing about this game is I'm curious how well they're going to represent 3D space, if that's even going to be a thing. It looks like it's not. It looks like it's going to be X-Wing in that it's just strictly 2D, but if they had a way to actually incorporate 3D space into it, that would really be revolutionary, and it might make the game very expensive. I have a feeling a game that's doing what they're doing here, and we can run through these pictures again, because like there doesn't seem like there's extra elevation. It looks like they're all about the same height approximately. The missiles apparently, you know, according to the prototype here, appear flat, so it doesn't appear like the missiles have any type of elevation as well. So I don't think they're doing anything with 3 dimensions. And the funny thing is, the game that does the most with 3 dimensions right now is Legion, which is not a space-based game, which is taking place on land, which is a 2-dimensional fighting ground for the most part, you know, or at least more so than space. So I think that irony is a little bit funny right there. But you know, there's a decent number of ships they have. Like there were basically 2 main types of fighters for the humans in Battlestar Galactica, the newer reboot, but then they built one. They had the stealth one, and there were a couple extra variations. But and then you add in the ancient ones, the older ones too. I think you're going to end up with like about 5 or maybe 6. You know, so you're going to have a decent number. I don't know if there's enough for them to really support a full-blown, you know, multi-wave line, or if this is going to be like a, you know, an all-in-one box solution, like maybe like a single wave plus maybe 1 expansion. Like maybe, you know, is this going to be like you just buy the box and it's got everything you need to play the game, which would be interesting. You know, it wouldn't necessarily require as many opponents, but you know, I hope it's expandable. Expandable games tend to be a little more fun. at least from my opinion. So let me know what you guys think of the new system, of the new, mechanic of inertia. We don't have a whole lot of information on this yet, but I am very anxious for more. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.